Hey guys, Insane Mike again, your host from Attack of the Killer podcast, doing another video, another chapter in my series of my favorite 100 greatest movies of all time. I just did the math and we've covered 45 films so far, so we're still not even quite halfway, so we need to step it up. So we'll try to do even more movies than this. Still try to keep the videos fairly short, so probably won't go into a whole lot of detail, but let's get going, shall we? First off, from 1987, this is hands down, if you were to call this movie a straight action movie, it's my favorite action film of all time. But there's also so much more going on. There's a sci-fi element, but also a lot of satire and comedy that it's in the movie as well. And of course, I'm talking about the Paul Verhoeven film RoboCop. This movie, you can't really get much better than this film, man. It's everything about it I love. This is the 20th anniversary collector's edition. I pulled this out instead of my Blu-ray because this is the superior release of this film, with some of the great bonus features that it has. But Peter Weller is amazing as RoboCop. You got Nancy Allen, who I'm in love with, and a lot of great humor in it, but also gets really dark and gruesome in parts too. When they kill Murphy in the beginning of the film, it's pretty brutal, but man, it's such a great movie. I told you I was going to try to keep these shorter, so let's move on. Another movie that is like almost perfect. A lot of films, even within my top 100, I can get nitpicky if I want to, and be like, well, there's not this or there's not that, and this is one of those movies that I can't really nitpick. If it was up to me, the only thing that I would say that it's missing is maybe some levity, a little humor, because I was like a little, I don't like my movies always so dark and straight, but you almost can't really add any levity or humor in this movie. But it's 1982, and finally we got a John Carpenter film in my top 100. Shockingly, not a whole lot of John Carpenter films made it in. Don't get me wrong, I love John Carpenter. I love all of his movies, and this is my favorite of his, and I'm talking about The Thing. The Thing, cinematic masterpiece. That's all I gotta say, man. And like some great pioneering special effects. You got Kurt Russell and his amazing beard. Yeah, great movie. What can you say? Now, this next one, I'm really hit and miss with this director, and I'm talking about Woody Allen. But this one Woody Allen movie has cracked the top 100. I'm a huge fan of movies that break the fourth wall. And again, movies within movies is always a big thing for me as well. And so this one is 1985's The Purple Rose of Cairo. This movie is great. I love it too, where like the character, Jeff Daniels' character, comes off of the screen and the movie can't end until they get him back on the screen. So they're all just kind of hanging out and waiting. But there's no explanation as like what kind of world is this that a character can jump off, that he's so in love with this woman that he jumps off the screen of the movie. There's no rational explanation for what's going on, trying to define what's going on. It's just all about kind of the connection and the love story. But the whole fourth wall thing was huge for me. I love movies that break the fourth wall, and this is breaking the fourth wall within the movie itself. So it's been, if you've ever seen my movie Legend Has It, I pay tribute to Purple Rose of Cairo within the film, and it being a big influence on my film Legend Has It, which is nothing but a movie about breaking the fourth wall. So again, not the biggest Woody Allen fan, but this one really is a great film, and I love it. Next, also, if you know me, I'm a huge fan of bad cinema. I love just really bad movies, especially bad movies with a heart, that really the filmmakers really cared about the movie that they were making, even though they just didn't do a very good job. And you can't get any more bad movie than Ed Wood. So, you know, as far as bad movies go, again, this is kind of the stereotype, kind of the expectation, but can't help it. I do love this movie, and I've seen it so many times I can recite the dialogue from it, and that's Plan 9 from Outer Space. Plan 9 from Outer Space is one of the greatest bad movies of all time, because it is a fun ride. 1959, and it still rules. So we're gonna get a little modern in this next one. This movie, I freaking fell in love with every character, with every actor in this movie. I was kind of fans of all the actors in this movie, but no, seriously fell in love with them once I saw this movie. It's got Pat Healy in it, who you would know from The Innkeepers and some other films. I mean, he's great, but as soon as I saw this movie, it's like, this is one of those actors that could do no wrong. Sarah Paxton, also Innkeepers. David Koechner, who I love to see him anytime he pops up. But now, I thirst for David Koechner, and it's such a different film for him too. He's usually playing really goofball characters. In this film, he's playing it pretty straight. And then, of course, my man crush, Ethan Embry. I've always enjoyed Ethan Embry in anything I saw him in. But again, once I saw this movie, I just knew I had to see everything that Ethan Embry's in, and that is from 2013, Cheap Thrills. Wow, this movie is just wow. That's all I can really say. Again, it's a newer film and not as well known. I would highly recommend checking it out. It would blow your mind whole. But we got to keep things moving. Talked about another one of my favorite filmmakers in a previous episode. Talked about Frank Henenlotter and how no one does gross and dark and gritty 80s New York better than Frank Henenlotter. And this is the ultimate example of that. We're talking about 1988's Brain Damage. The scenes when he's trying to recover from Elmer's brain juice in that gross ass hotel. It does not get any seedier New York than that. But Brain Damage is great. I love Elmer. I've always loved Elmer. The design of him is great. Paul Bartelos. Wait, did I say that right? Shoot. Gabe. I don't know where Paul came from. Gabe Bartelos. His design of Elmer is awesome. It's cartoony and cute and creepy and gross all at the same time. It's got some great gore in it. It's got some great optical effects in it. Again, it's a pretty simplistic storyline with an outrageous concept. So I really appreciate it for that. And Zachary, TV horror host Zachary, does the voice of Elmer. Huge Zachary fan, so sold. Brain Damage. Going back to my love for teen 80s sex comedies. This is one I remember. I remember the first time I saw this movie, and it took me over half the movie before I realized that it was actually a woman and not Ralph Macchio. And that's 1985's Just One of the Guys, where girl's trying to do a news article for her high school newspaper by dressing up like a guy and trying to live a life as a guy in high school. This movie is really funny, and yeah, it's hysterical and it's wrong on so many levels. But that's what you get with 80s teen sex comedies. Another influential filmmaker for me is Peter Jackson. I love all of Peter Jackson films, mostly his early works when he was still a little bit more sick and twisted before he started really getting into the Hollywood studio system. Not that there's anything wrong with the stuff that he does. I still love the Lord of the Rings movies, the Hobbit movies. King Kong is great, but nothing for me compares to those early works. And I feel as a filmmaker, as a craftsman, he really shines in those early films. Because again, he's got nobody telling him what to do, and he has to do it himself. And um, none of that is more apparent than in his very first film, Bad Taste. These videos are starting to wear me down, guys. I'm just going to tell you that right now. All these movies. Bad Taste, his very first film from 1987. I remember seeing the poster for this for the first time, and just the poster alone sold me with the alien holding up the middle finger. But in a lot of video stores, they sent the boxes out, the VHS boxes out with a sticker that you could put over the knuckle next to it, so it looks like he's holding up a peace sign instead of the middle finger, as to not to offend the people going to the video store. And this particular DVD, it's got one of those like movable covers where you tilt it and the finger's there and then the finger's not there. This is probably the best version of Bad Taste ever. I still don't think it's on Blu-ray. And again, it's by Anchor Bay, and this is my version is 11,607 out of 50,000. But it's got an amazing making of on this, and do they have a commentary? I don't remember. No, maybe it was just the making of, called Good Taste Made Bad Taste. And holy shit, like if you think Peter Jackson is an amazing filmmaker, you really have no clue until you would watch the making of Bad Taste. The fact that he shot it on a shitty little Bolex camera, then only shot 30-second of film at a time. So if you go back, and I did this after I watched the making of on this disc. If you go back and watch the movie, there is not a single shot in the entire movie that lasts longer than 30 seconds. But then he's got like some really crazy crane shots in this movie, like when one of the characters is hanging over the cliff. There's a really massive crane shot. They don't have a video village. They can't hook this little Bolex camera up to a monitor or anything. The only thing that they could see is by looking through the Bolex camera through the little eyepiece, and that's the only way you could tell what's being shot. Well, they made a handmade crane that only fit the camera on it, and shot those shots of him hanging over the cliff. So they just had to like guess that the camera was pointing in the right direction, and those shots look great. Not to mention that Peter Jackson plays two characters in this film that he ends up in a fist fight with himself in the movie, and the editing on it is done so beautifully. But everything was made by hand. None of the guns in the movie they're not prop guns, they're not real guns, they're not even plastic guns. They're made of wood, and and then anytime you see the muzzle gunfire flashes, they're actually little scratches that he put on the negatives to make those little gun flashes, to go through each frame and draw those on there. Wow. The aliens he made the masks for those in his mom's kitchen, in her oven. And the reason why the aliens, like the top of their head kind of flattens out, is because the oven wasn't big enough for the mold, so he had to kind of flatten out the head. It's just amazing. I feel, anytime I watch this movie, especially the making of part, I feel like the laziest filmmaker on the planet, because the ingenuity, the creativity, and the sheer willpower to make this movie is just incredible. Nothing like you've ever seen before. So if you like the movie before for its splastastic gore effects and all that stuff, it is a fun ride for that, but you just would appreciate a lot more to know what Peter Jackson did to make this movie. I mean, I've even just barely scratched the tip of the iceberg. Next one, we talked about Plan 9 from Outer Space, me being an Edward D. Wood Jr. fan, and I am. So of course I got to include another filmmaker that I really admire a lot, and that's Tim Burton. So I have to have Ed Wood's biopic in my top 100, the only Tim Burton movie to make my top 100, and that is Ed Wood. Much deserved Oscar award for Martin Landau's performance of Bela Lugosi. If any takeaway from this movie is that amazing, I mean, he is Bela Lugosi in this movie. And this DVD is awesome too, because I learned one of the main reasons why they shot this thing in black and white, which was a great move, mind you. But the reason why they shot this movie in black and white is because the Lugosi makeup, they couldn't figure out how to get the Lugosi makeup to look right. Every time they'd apply it to Martin Landau, it was like, it just doesn't look right. So then they took pictures of it in black and white, and they're like, holy shit, it's perfect. And that's because there's no colored pictures of Bela Lugosi. You know, we only ever see Bela Lugosi black and white. So they've shot the film so to really capture the Bela Lugosi look. And also, it's a movie about making movies. So I've talked about that before. That is a thing I really like. Which leads me into the last one we're going to talk about in this episode. Movie about making movies, but this is about making pure guerrilla grindhouse art, I guess you could say, political statements, and it's another John Waters movie, who, again, another one of my favorite directors. That's 2000's Cecil B. Demented. And these, like, guerrilla filmmakers that are, like, that kidnap this Hollywood actress and forces her to be in their independent film. So, at gunpoint. It's hilarious. You really need to check it out if you haven't seen it before. But that's it for this round. We knocked out another 10, guys, so now we're over the halfway mark, and hopefully we can keep this momentum going and get through the rest of this. So we'll see you again really soon. Thanks, bye.